Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a market you might not really think about much, but it's actually silently essential to so many things around you. We're talking about the global market for metal dryers.
Right. And for this deep dive, we've got some really focused insights. We're drawing from excerpts of a report by Cognitive Market Research.
Okay.
And it really zeroes in on growth trends and, importantly, those regional differences.
Got it. So our mission today is basically to take that data the report lays out, the numbers, the drivers, the stories from different regions,
Yeah.
and sort of distill what's key. Figure out where this, fundamental and maybe surprisingly large industry is heading globally.
Exactly. Think of this as your personal guide, really, to the landscape these sources reveal. It's tailored for you, the listener.
Okay, let's jump in then. Let's unpack this. So when we talk metal dryers, what are we actually talking about?
We're talking about chemical compounds. Often they're metal salts, and they get added to things like, paints, inks, varnishes. Their job is simple, but it's critical. They speed up the drying or the curing process.
How do they do that?
Usually by helping the coating react with oxygen in the air.
Yeah.
Without them, that coat of paint, it might take forever to dry.
Right, okay. So they're kind of the unsung heroes of finishes.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. The unsung heroes of many finishes we see every day. And looking at the global market size, according to this report, it was valued at $1,428.2 million. That was back in 2021.
$1.4 billion. Okay.
Right.
And the growth trajectory.
Well, it's quite striking. The report projects that figure climbs to $1,858.1 million just 4 years later in 2025.
Right.
And then it really accelerates. It more than doubles from that 2021 number to reach $3,145.1 million by 2033.
Wow, over $3 billion.
Yeah.
That translates to a pretty strong global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, 6.8%.
6.8% from 2021 all the way to 2033. For a market like this, that shows significant momentum.
So what's driving this quiet giant then? The report must highlight some key engines.
It does. Increased industrial demand is, a big one. It specifically calls out paints, coatings, inks, and the construction sector.
Which makes perfect sense, doesn't it? As industries grow, they need more finishing materials.
Exactly.
And those materials need to dry efficiently. You think about huge infrastructure projects, bridges, roads, buildings.
They all need durable coatings, yeah.
Right. And infrastructure development itself is listed as another key driver.
That's there too.
Yeah.
And also a surge in automotive refinishing, restoring, repainting cars that requires specific fast-drying coatings.
Okay.
And one more thing, technological advancements. Developing higher performance coatings means the dryers themselves have to sort of evolve to keep up, to work with these new formulas.
So better paints need better dryer.
Basically, yes.
It's interesting, isn't it? Just thinking how many places these metal dryers touch your life without you even really seeing them.
Totally.
The finish on furniture, floors, the ink on packaging, maybe the paint on a car you drive past.
Yeah, this global growth is really fueled by very tangible things happening all around the world.
Okay. Now, you said earlier the report highlights regional differences. So while that global picture is strong, this growth isn't uniform everywhere.
No, not at all. And if we zoom in, we see some really fascinating regional variations. It's quite different place to place.
Okay, let's do that. Where should we start? North America.
Sounds good. So North America. The market size there was $452.7 million in 2021.
Right.
Projected to reach $972 million by 2033. That's a healthy 6.7% CAGR for the region overall.
Okay. And within North America, the U.S. must be the biggest part.
Oh, yeah. The U.S. is the largest slice of that pie.
Yeah.
It goes from $340.9 million up to $707.4 million. That's a solid 6.5% CAGR.
Okay.
But what actually caught my eye in the report, Canada.
Oh.
It shows the highest CAGR in the whole region, 7.6%, growing from $75.2 million to $185 million.
7.6%. That is a notable difference compared to the U.S.'s 6.5%. Any clues in the report why Canada's growth rate might be slightly higher?
It doesn't detail the specific why for Canada leading like that, but it does note a broader regional trend for North America overall.
Which is?
A continued investment in eco-friendly and high-performance dryer alternatives.
Oh, okay.
So this suggests the growth isn't just about volume, but maybe also about a shift towards, more advanced, potentially higher value products.
That's a key point, that shift towards better tech, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move across the Atlantic. Europe, how does it compare?
Well, market size is pretty comparable to North America, actually. It was $405.6 million in 2021,
Right.
expected to hit $863.8 million by 2033, and the CAGR is 6.5%.
So very similar growth rate overall to North America's 6.7%.
Very similar. Germany is a significant market within Europe, showing a 6.9% CAGR.
Okay.
The UK actually mirrors Canada's strong growth rate, 7.6% there, too.
Interesting parallel.
Yeah. And then other countries like France, Italy, Spain, Russia, they're mentioned as contributing consistent increases. Luxembourg, though smaller, $8.5 million in 2021. It's projected to reach $18.4 million. That's a 6.8% CAGR.
And the rest of Europe category?
That's growing quite strongly, too, actually. 7.2% CAGR listed there. One of the stronger rates mentioned, going from $58.4 million to $139.1 million.
Okay. And the trend, similar to North America.
Yes. The report notes Europe is also heavily invested in those eco-friendly and high-performance.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Report notes Europe is also heavily invested in those eco-friendly and high-performance alternatives.
So again, that suggests this common focus, maybe in more developed markets, on refining the technology alongside just market expansion.
It certainly looks that way, and, this contrasts pretty sharply with the story in Asia-Pacific.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, the report describes Asia-Pacific as rapidly emerging, a global hotspot.
You can see why just looking at the numbers. The market size there was $347 million in 2021. And is projected to nearly triple to $848.4 million by 2033.
Exactly. And that gives Asia-Pacific the highest regional CGR mentioned in the source, a really remarkable 7.4%.
Wow. And the fuel for that, is it the same eco-focus?
No, it seems different. The report explicitly ties this growth to rapid industrial expansion and massive urban infrastructure development.
Right. So it's more about pure scale and the speed of building things.
That's the picture it paints. China is obviously a major force, growing at 7.6% CAGR.
Okay.
But the real standout, India. Yeah, the report pegs India as having the highest country CAGR mentioned anywhere, a staggering 8.5%.
8.5%.
Exploding from $64.6 million in 2021 to a projected $177.7 million by 2033.
Incredible growth.
And Japan, South Korea, Australia, Southeast Asia. They're also big contributors with strong momentum listed.
So it's a very clear picture then. While North America and Europe seem focused on what kind of dryers they use,
the eco-friendly high-performance angle.
Asia-Pacic's growth is just driven by the sheer volume of new construction and manufacturing that needs any kind of efficient drying solution.
Exactly. Think about the scale of new factories, new cities being built there. The demand for coatings must be immense.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how might that sheer volume of industrial demand in Asia-Pacific impact, say, global raw material costs, or even the availability of certain goods you might buy?
That's a great point. It definitely has knock-on effects.
Okay, let's shift continents again. Latin America, what's the story there?
The report suggests this region is also undergoing rapid industrialization, which is contributing to its market growth.
Similar pattern to parts of Asia-Pac then.
Seems like it. Brazil is a key country here, set to grow from $57.5 million to $122.8 million. That's a 6.6% CAGR.
Okay.
Argentina and Colombia also showing solid growth trajectories. And then Peru and Chile are projected to reach $19.6 million and $18.2 million respectively by 2033.
So again, growth seemingly fueled largely by expanding industrial bases and building.
That seems to be the main narrative for Latin America in this report, yes.
All right. Finally, the Middle East and Africa. You mentioned earlier the growth was described as more mixed.
Yeah, that's the word the report uses, mixed. Egypt and Turkey, for instance, are showing steady growth, both around 6.4% CAGR.
Okay, solid enough.
But the outlier is the rest of the Middle East region specifically.
Ah, right. What was the number there?
It has the slowest regional growth mentioned, just 3.5% CAGR.
Wow, yeah, that is significantly lower than everywhere else we've discussed. Does the report suggest why that particular subregion might be lagging?
It offers some likely reasons. Factors like maybe limited industrial activity compared to other regions, or perhaps a slower transition toward adopting those advanced coatings technologies we see driving growth elsewhere.
Okay.
It really underscores how local economic development and technological adoption rates really shape these specific market trends.
It's fascinating seeing that contrast laid out. Some regions pushing for sheer scale and volume,
Like Asia-Pacific, parts of Latin America.
driven by industrial build-out, while others are more focused on technological sophistication, environmental considerations.
Like North America and Europe. Absolutely. And, this brings us nicely to the innovations mentioned in the report.
Okay. The things likely to shape the future competitive landscape.
Exactly. What's coming next for this market?
So what stands out there? What are the key innovations?
Well, one really significant trend mentioned is the move towards cobalt-free solutions.
Cobalt-free. Okay, why is getting away from cobalt important in dryers? What's the issue?
Well, cobalt has been a very common component for a long time. It acts as a primary dryer, really good at accelerating surface drying.
Right.
But there are growing concerns about environmental impact, potential health risks associated with cobalt, and also the volatility of cobalt supply chains, pricing.
Okay, so multiple pressures.
Yeah. And all that is driving the search for effective alternatives. The report points to this as a key area of development, finding ways to get that drying performance without the cobalt.
So it's about performance, but also responsibility and supply chain security. Makes sense. What else is innovating?
Compatibility with low VOC coatings. That's another critical one.
Low VOC. Remind us what VOCs are.
Volatile organic compounds. They're basically the solvents that evaporate from paint as it dries.
And they cause problems.
They contribute to air pollution, smog formation. So regulations and consumer demand, too, are really pushing for coatings with much lower VOC content, or even water-based systems altogether.
Which means the dryers need to change, too.
Exactly. The dryers need to work effectively in these new, less solvent-heavy environments. It's like,
Like they need to learn a new language to do their job.
That's a perfect analogy. They have to adapt to enable the performance of these greener coating formulations.
Okay. Anything else on the innovation front?
And finally, the report mentions advancements in application technology.
How the paint is put on?
Yeah, how a coating is applied, whether it's sprayed or rolled or brushed, that impacts how it dries. So dryers are being developed to optimize performance with these varied methods.
Interesting. So the future isn't just about making more dryers. It's about making different, maybe smarter dryers.
That's it. Smarter dryers that align with environmental goals and this evolving coating technology landscape.
It all connects back.
Right. These innovations seem like a direct response to those regional and global pressures we talked about. The push for sustainability in developed markets and the need for just sheer efficient performance everywhere else.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've taken this deep dive using the data from this cognitive market research report, showing a global market for metal dryers that's, well, experiencing pretty robust growth overall.
Definitely robust.
Yeah.
And that growth is powered by different engines depending on where you look.
Right. Massive industrialization, infrastructure build-out, driving places like Asia-Pacific.
Especially India, with that really striking growth rate we saw.
Yeah. Versus a stronger focus on sustainability, those advanced, eco-friendly alternatives in places like North America and Europe.
Two different stories unfolding.
And while this market might be kind of hidden from plain sight for most of us, it's clearly fundamental to countless products and industries. Understanding its dynamics, it actually reveals quite a lot about bigger global trends, manufacturing shifts, environmental pressures, technological evolution in the materials we use every single day.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, considering that dual push we've highlighted throughout this. On one hand, you have this massive demand for sheer volume driven by industrial growth, especially in emerging economies.
Right.
And on the other hand, there's this intense focus, particularly in other regions, on sustainability, low VOC solutions, getting away from things like cobalt.
That tension.
Exactly, that tension. How might the coatings and finishes you interact with daily on your walls, your furniture, your car, how might they be fundamentally changing in their composition, maybe even their function, over the next decade because of these competing forces?
That push and pull between growth and green technology.
Yeah. It's definitely something worth considering as these trends continue.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Technology.
Yeah. It's definitely something worth considering as these trends continue to play out. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to unhack a market that's probably invisible to most people, but really essential for things you use every single day. We're diving into the world of metal dryers.
That's right. And we're using insights from a cognitive market research report you shared. Our goal really is to understand the core dynamics, what these things are, what's driving their use.
The challenges they face.
Exactly. The hurdles and where the market seems to be heading.
Yeah, because think about it, that paint on your car, the ink on packaging, how does it dry so fast and look so good?
Often it's these metal dryers working behind the scenes. They play this like crucial but unseen role.
Okay, so let's start there. What are metal dryers exactly?
Well, the source defines them as additives. They go into coatings, inks, varnishes, particularly the ones based on alkyds.
Alkyds. Remind me and what does the dryer actually do?
Good question. Alkyds are a kind of synthetic resin, very common in paints because they're, pretty durable and cost effective.
Right.
Now, these alkyd coatings, they dry through something called oxidative drying, basically reacting with oxygen from the air to harden.
Okay, so they need air to cure.
Exactly. And metal dryers, they're catalysts. They just make that whole oxidative drying process happen much, much faster.
Ah, so they're like little chemical accelerators. That makes sense.
Pretty much.
And the report really stresses why that speed is so important, doesn't it? It's about performance, efficiency.
Totally. You need coatings to cure quickly and evenly. It's vital for manufacturing speed and just the quality of the final product.
Right. So that must be a huge driver for demand.
Oh, absolutely. The paints and coatings industry is the main customer here. Think about huge sectors like automotive or construction.
Yeah.
They need paints that dry incredibly fast to keep production lines moving or finish projects on time. And the coating needs to be tough, too.
And it's not just paint, right? The report mentioned printing inks as well?
Yes, that's another big area, especially with high-speed printing for packaging, labels, publications.
Things need to dry instantly.
Almost instantly, yeah. Particularly in developing economies where packaging demand is booming. These dryers make that high-speed printing possible.
And then there's just general industrial growth.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
Right. More building means more industrial paints, decorative paints, all needing efficient dryers for proper film formation. That's the liquid turning solid and just speeding up the cure.
Okay, so the demand side seems pretty solid, driven by these massive industries. But it sounds like there's some real challenges, too. The report flagged some issues.
Definitely. A really big one involved health and environmental concerns.
Oh.
Traditionally, cobalt-based dryers were like the go-to, very effective. But there are toxicity concerns.
Right.
And that's led to strict regulations, especially in Europe. So there's huge pressure to find safer alternatives.
A regulatory squeeze, basically.
Yeah.
What about costs? I saw mentions of raw material prices being volatile. Cobalt, manganese.
Yeah, that's another major headache. The price of these metals can swing, quite a bit based on global supply, demand, geopolitics.
Mining issues, maybe?
All of that. And this volatility hits the dryer production costs directly, makes pricing really difficult, creates uncertainty. Companies constantly have to adjust.
And layered on top of that, the whole coatings industry is shifting, isn't it, towards water-based stuff?
Precisely. That's a fundamental shift, moving towards water-based and low VOC coatings.
VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, the stuff you try to avoid.
Exactly. The stuff that evaporates from traditional solvent paints. As the industry moves away from those solvents, there's less need for the traditional dryers used with them.
So dryer manufacturers have to innovate or get left behind.
They really do. It's forcing change.
Okay, so you've got regulations, cost pressures, a technology shift. How's the industry fighting back? What are the key trends?
Well, the number one trend, according to the report, is the push for eco-friendly and cobalt-free dryers. It's huge.
Makes sense. Driven by the regulations?
Regulations, but also consumer demand for greener products. So R&D is heavily focused on alternatives, things like manganese-based or iron-based systems.
Trying to match the performance.
Match it, or even beat it, ideally, but without the toxicity issues of cobalt.
Okay. Where else is the market finding growth?
Emerging markets are a big focus. Places like China, India, Brazil.
Right.
Rapid urbanization, lots of manufacturing growth. It's creating massive local demand. And they're not just buying old tech. They're pushing for advanced dryer technologies, too.
Interesting. And the last trend mentioned was about high-performance additives. What does that mean in practice?
It means developing dryers that offer more than just basic drying. Think faster speeds, sure, but also better anti-skinning properties.
Stopping that skin forming on the paint in the can.
Exactly. And better compatibility with all the new complex resins used in modern coatings.
Like for specialized uses.
Yeah, demanding applications, automotive top coats, aerospace, marine paints. They need dryers tailored for those tough requirements.
So let's try and wrap this up. It seems the metal dryer market is, well, critical but complex. It's feeling the heat from environmental rules, cost issues, but it's also actively innovating. New materials focus on sustainability, pushing performance.
It really is. And what's kind of fascinating, I think, is how this one small component, the metal dryer, tells a much bigger story.
How so?
It just perfectly shows how industries have to constantly juggle things. Performance needs versus environmental responsibility, raw material costs, and availability.
Right, just to keep evolving.
Exactly. It really makes you think about all the sort of unseen chemistry and engineering that goes into the everyday things around us.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.